I think one of the things people will say that it's not when people make accusations, it might not be fair to counter with words as well. I mean, actions should help counter it faster. Do you think that, don't you think that the accusations are coming out of certain experiences and that, you know, maybe the engineers haven't looked inwards enough to see those who could be giving them a bad name? Maybe some people have been contracted to do something and they did below standard work, not because they don't know what to do, but because they were just trying to cut corners. Have you ever tried to do that investigation before?
Yes, we have. And let me tell you, it's on record that every bad construction in this country, hardly there's any that is traced to a registered engineer. In the Nigerian Society of Engineers, we call what's called investigation and failure committee in every branches of the Nigerian Society of Engineers. So when there's a failure, either roads or of construction, this group will go there to make sure to first of all determine why the structure failed, and also to find out if a registered engineer has been involved. But most of the time, our findings has been that most of these construction are done by quack or what I call maybe non-engineers who call themselves engineers. The most bastardized profession in this country is engineering, because the road mechanic will call himself engineer, the bricklayer will call himself engineer. Everybody wants to be called an engineer, even though when they have not seen the four wall of a university. And in this country, when governments are giving out jobs, now let me tell you, when they give out jobs, they choose not to give it to even non-engineering companies. They prefer to give it to one Yalaro and company or one senator, whatever company, who will, you know, push the job down. And by the time the construction company that is actually going to do the job is getting in, it's operating at about fourth layer of the chain of the contract. And operating at fourth layers, most professionals will probably say, well, I'm not going to do this just because, I mean, so many people have removed their cut from that. And if he's going to do it, now he's going to do it at his own time, and he must make profit. Now, when you investigate those processes, you find out that it's a systemic thing, not about the person of the engineer.
But have you been able to lay this complaint or this discovery with the hope of also maybe proffering solutions as to how they can cut this and give the jobs directly to those who can do it?
Well, I think the Nigerian Society has been speaking. We've been speaking through our conferences, through seminars. We have annual conferences every year. The next one is coming up in Ilorin. And there are times we have to discuss the issue of road. We have to present position papers. But unfortunately, you know the problem with Nigeria? Corruption.
Are you now saying that none of your registered engineers have been involved in failed contracts?
No, I will not say none.
So the ones that have been involved, the
percentage is minimal. And those that have been involved has been sanctioned.
Now, don't you think that the fact that you have your registered engineers involved in failed contracts, especially road contracts, that's one of the reasons why probably they are not getting these jobs as you claim?
No, if the percentage, you need to look at the percentage. For example, from our own record, you probably have less than 2 or 3% of failed contract, either roads or collapsed building, and you find a registered engineer actually, you know, being involved in those projects. So if an engineer is not involved, then we cannot take responsibility. If an engineer is involved, if a registered engineer is involved, there are processes in the Nigerian Society of Engineers by Council for the Regulation of Engineering Practice in Nigeria to sanction such engineers. And there have been instances. We now have what we call engineering courts that people are taking to, and then you have to defend yourself and convince the council, current, that you actually do what you're supposed to do.
Okay, so if one comes out of the university with a degree, an engineering degree, and comes to your society, you can register that person?
No. For you to be registered as a member of the Nigerian Society of Engineers, you must have practiced for 4 years. Because it is believed that a fresh graduate from Nigeria, from the university, I mean, it's as green as anything. Therefore, you are not allowed, or you cannot go and begin to practice. You must do tutelage under a registered engineer. And for 4 years, for God's sake, it is assumed that you have acquired the necessary experience.
Assumed.
Well,
so how do you handle the verification of that assumption?
Now, the assumption is verified during your process of registration with the society. Because you will go through a written exam, you also go through an oral interview. You write a report of your experience for 4 years, and then you will be interviewed by experienced engineer one-on-one. And they're going to ask you this project you said you did. How did you do it? What are the engineering challenges? How did you come about the design? Why did you do design this way? And then you give them your answer. If you're able to convince them that you have the experience, then they will register you.
So if that
not,
person,
you will not be registered.
If that person, you now ascertain that this person is a quality engineer, you now register him, what's the guarantee that he will not cut corners when he's given a road to construct?
Now, let me tell you that the issue of cut corner is not about engineers. It's a Nigerian thing.
Really?
The issue of cut corner is cut across every profession. Except that, like we say here, when a doctor kills somebody, nobody knows. He buries the person. When an engineer makes a mistake, let me say when the doctor makes a mistake, maybe one person dies. When an engineer makes a mistake, maybe 100 or more people will die. But the truth of the matter is, the engineers, by their training, we are conscious of the fact that your design could affect many lives. And therefore, we are very careful when it comes to design and the processes that it goes through. For example, if you design a building, you are designing a building or a road, you still have to take it to approving authority. The approving authority has the responsibility to check your design and to ask questions.
Do you mind if I interrupt you? Yeah. Because an associate professor at the Faculty of Civil Engineering, University of Technology Malaysia, Dr. Johnny Ben Edigbe, a Nigerian, said that the major problem is on road design, on failure of roads, is defective design and failure to adhere to road construction standards. Now, you talked about design. When you finish design, does your society look through that design before it goes through to the authorizing authority, to the approving authorities?
No, the society does not have a structure.
I thought your society was supposed to help to put your members in check so that you do not have your society being blamed for failures.
No, we do not have a structure to look through every design done by a member of the society. Like I said, when the design is done, it's taken to the approving authority, either in the state or in the federal government, where they look through your design. And all these people that operate there, they are also engineers.
Registered with you?
Registered with Nigerian Society of Engineers and current. And when they look through it, if they have any questions and all that, then they ask your question. And if there's no problem with your design, they approve it, and then you can go ahead with your design. But let me tell you, I was reading this particular report you are citing this morning when I was coming. And I looked at it and I said, well, somebody is in Malaysia and is talking about Nigeria. For me, you cannot be in Malaysia and be commenting about what is happening.
What if he just left?
But he was saying this in Nigeria.
Well, as long as he's not resident in Nigeria, it's difficult for him to have a good assessment of what is happening in Nigeria. Now, let me give you a very good example. You are going to construct road in Nigeria. We discussed with most of our members. You want to construct road in Nigeria. A local government want to construct road. And then they call an engineer, please give us a design for this road. And the man bring out his design. You know that naturally in the construction of road, you are supposed to have the road, you are supposed to have the curbs, you are supposed to have the drainage that goes with it. And then at the end of the day, the local government says, well, we can't fund this project and we don't have this money. This is how much we have and all that. And therefore, I'm not going to do this road. If then they look for one quack or unregistered or some group of people who agree to do the road without the drainage. You must have seen that. It is an anomaly for you to have a road without drainage. It's a bad design for you to have a road without a curb. And these are happening. And go and check it. You won't find Nigerian engineers.